They want to take you down, and the rest of the team.
I don't understand.
Wanted Dead is a hybrid slasher shooter from the makers of Ninja Gaiden and Dead or Alive, released in 2023, developed by Soleil and published by 110 Industries. The game takes place in Hong Kong and follows an elite police squad known as the Zombie Unit, as they try to uncover a big corporate mystery. You play as Hannah Stone, the rough, spunky, hard-boiled, laborious, katana-wielding lieutenant of the group. More often than not, the gang run into political affairs that get them in trouble with their captain. Hannah likes to get to the bottom of things, if not with ease, then with force, which usually involves her sword. This time, though, her denseness entraps her in a downward spiral that may lead to her and her team's ousting. Wanted Dead is a very unique game that heavily alludes to games of the past. The game is rough around the edges. The voiceover doesn't match actions sometimes. There's bad scene transitions. A lot of the time they happen too quickly. Characters get introduced in dumb ways. The subtitles are wrong sometimes, spelling out things that aren't actually said. You'll run into some missing textures, or sometimes you just can't talk to a character after pressing the prompt. It's all pretty cheesy, but it offers just the right amount of silliness and jank that makes it an awesome game. The police station acts as a hub area where you can walk around and engage in conversations with your team or other people working there. You can find some lore bits through collectible notes and can go to the shooting range to practice with different weapons. Leaving the station will take you to a level where you need to slash and shoot your way through the rooms. The game is very arcadey. There's not much depth to the combat other than being precise with your button presses. Hannah has multiple moves that she can pull off with her sword, and dealing enough damage to your enemies can stagger them enough to let you activate one of many different flashy finishers. The game is very fast paced, and getting good enough to trigger these cool moves is the epitome of fun. The combat overall, though, is pretty stale and doesn't feel right. You can hide behind cover, but it doesn't really work as well as it should. You kind of just bounce around before you can get in it completely. Even then, enemies never stop moving and shooting, so you will most likely still be getting hit anyways. They do this while you are trying to fight with your sword as well, so it can be difficult to understand how you need to handle any given situation. The gunplay feels weak. None of the guns feel powerful and almost act as a way to daze your opponent for a second so you can get in for a sword attack. A lot of the enemies are bullet sponges, and that mixed in with the different enemy types can cause issues. The game has some odd difficulty spikes, like when enemies are constantly shooting you, and then a ninja runs up to you and you have to sword fight him and have to focus on parrying and countering while your health is continuously being drained from oncoming fire. At some points, it's better to just cheese your way out of a situation and lead enemies into the previous room one by one. Hannah is also equipped with a handgun, which is supposed to be used to complement the sword gameplay and pull off some stellar combos, but can be a force to be reckoned with when leveled up. There is a system to customize your weapons and swap out gun parts to increase different attributes like accuracy and fire rate, but I never really bothered with it because of how on the fly the combat is already. If you run out of ammo, you can just pick up one of the enemy's guns and start using that. Plus you always have your sword and handgun. Leveling up is very useful. There's a few small skill trees that you can tackle that have some nice abilities on them that you can unlock, like gaining more health when you heal, new sword combos, or being able to throw different types of grenades. The game is stylish, no doubt, and that really enhances the overall tone of the game. The game has an old school cyberpunk neon lit filled vibe to it. It feels similarly to games like No More Heroes, Wet, and The Club. The menus are great. The main menu has attitude, and the other menus of the game boast a feverish telling of the care and attentiveness that went into making this game. At some points, the game will just have an anime cutscene out of nowhere, and it looks good. One second you will be having a serious conversation with one of your teammates, and the next second you'll be playing a button-pressing minigame at the karaoke bar. It's madness, but that's what makes it so good. The music is also very snappy and actually insanely good. It has a very 80s quality to all of it. The game is so energetic and full of itself at all points, and I'm here for it.
Serious nightmare, if you ask me.
They actually locked up a woman with you?
No, it was me who got locked up with her.
The story is sort of weird, and there are a lot of threads that don't get picked back up or get hinted on and never fully get solved. A lot of the plot points are left up in the air. We get a lot of exposition and backstory between the main group, but the overarching story plays out as if it is expecting to get a sequel. The story feels like it's going somewhere, but it never does. It will leave you unsatisfied and seems to really practice the saying of the ends don't justify the means. The character design is incredible, and I wish there was an art book for this game so I can fully admire the character and enemy models. One character in the zombie unit, Cortez, is deaf and mute and only communicates in sign language, which I thought was super cool because you hardly see any representation like that in games.
You know what? This time, I just might. I'll have some more.
Wanted Dead is a crazy game with a heavy story that ends up being lukewarm and disorderly combat that's wildly fun and acquires initiative. Cool character designs and a purposeful unhinged style doesn't dismiss the fact that the haphazardness of the gameplay doesn't blend well with everything else, even though the game style is fast and arcadish. The distinctive style shines through the mess though, and it's not hard to look past the flaws and have an enjoyable time with the intuitive combat, comical character performances, and whimsical nature of it all. The story falls short of something interesting by seeming to cut off when anything interesting seems like it's about to occur, but with how accelerated the game happens and the minigames integrated into the mix, you will be too busy admiring the great time you are having. Wanted Dead is not for everyone, but it was for me, and I wanted more. I give Wanted Dead an 8 out of 10.
Now we add a tablespoon of tomato paste. Stir a bit. Please use the good tomato paste, not the hipster one.